Farmageddon is a game of chance, strategy and agricultural bashing. Collect your crops before those scoundrels and blighters, your rivals, do some damage and reap all the benefits for themselves. The farmer with the largest heap of harvest wins. Farmageddon is a game of chance, strategy and agricultural mayhem. Harvest your crops before your good-for-nothing opponents sabotage things for their own gain. The farmer with the most valuable harvest pile at the end of the game wins. This game turns players into ruthless businessmen, true sharks of agricultural industry. Everything is allowed, we don't pay taxes, we take over other players' crops and tell the authorities to go after the neighbor who seems to be doing too well. Everything is permitted. After all, the goal is to have the most money at the end. In the game, like in real life, hard work can bring you millions. If you couple it with craftiness, you can get everything, so get to work. The game by Grind Roll the Egg is suitable for 2 to 4 players, aged +8. Duration 30 minutes. The fun is provided by Trefl line. Crop cards. Harvest value, fertilizer needed to harvest, special rule. First, place the 3 planting field cards in the center of the play space between all players. Shuffle the red action cards and green crop cards separately and deal each player 2 crop cards and 3 action cards. Place the action card and crop card decks face down in separate piles. The player who most recently visited a farm goes first. All other players take turns in clockwise order following the first player. At the start of each turn, the active player draws 2 crop cards. The active player can then do any of the following things in any order: plant crop cards, play fertilizer, play action cards, and harvest planted crop cards. Plant crop cards. The active player can plant as many crop cards as he or she wishes, as long as there are open planting fields. Crops are planted by placing a crop card face up on top of an open planting field. A planting field is considered open if it does not have a crop card on top of it. A planting field with a crop card is occupied until the crop card is harvested or destroyed. When a crop card is planted, move the planting field with the crop card in front of its new owner. If ownership of crop card changes, also move the planting field in front of the new owner. After a planted crop card is harvested or destroyed, move the empty planting field back to the center of the table. Play fertilizer. A player creates fertilizer by playing any crop card in his or her hand, face down onto any planted crop card in play. There is no limit to the amount of fertilizer a player can play in a single turn. If a player is able to do so, he or she must play at least 1 crop card as fertilizer before the turn ends. If a player doesn't have his or her own planted crop card, he or she must play a fertilizer on an opponent's planted crop card. Players cannot over-fertilize a planted crop card. If a planted crop card has enough fertilizer to be harvested, no more fertilizer can be played on the planted crop card. Play action cards. A player can play up to 3 action cards per turn. Action cards are placed in the action card discard pile when used, unless the text on the card states otherwise. Harvest crops. A planted crop card can be harvested when enough fertilizer is played on it. A player can harvest only planted crop cards that he or she owns. Planted crop cards cannot be harvested on the same turn they are planted. When harvesting a planted crop card, the owner places all fertilizer on the crop card into the crop card discard pile and sets the harvested crop card aside in his or her harvest pile. End of the turn. When a player no longer wants to plant, fertilize, harvest or play action cards, he or she ends his or her turn and draws new 2 action cards. Action cards cannot be used on the same turn they are drawn. If the action card deck runs out, shuffle the discarded action cards. There is no limit to the number of cards a player can hold in his or her hand. When the last crop card is drawn, the active player finishes his or her turn. Then every player except whoever drew the last crop card takes 1 final turn, even if all a player can do is play action cards. Once the final turn is played, the game is over. Any planted and fully fertilized crop cards remaining are automatically harvested and placed in their owner's harvest pile. Any crop cards with a Foul Manure action card are not harvested. Each player counts the total value of harvested crop cards as well as any bumper crop action cards, Corp Insurance action cards and pesticides action cards. The player with the most valuable harvest pile wins.